Hey guys, it's Jason Simpson with StreetCopMillionaire.com. I've been getting a lot of questions. I was talking to some people on Facebook, and I made some comment about how if you haven't bought an extra house this year, you're crazy with no cash and no credit because you don't need them to buy any. And I had some comments. People really don't think you can do that, and so I kind of wanted to address that and give you some free information on that and talk to you a little bit about that, because it is possible to buy houses with no cash and no credit, and that's the way I teach people to buy. You don't want cash or credit coming out of your pocket to buy houses. The best way to buy them is just through your knowledge and negotiations. There's a lot of different ways you can do. There's a lot of different techniques that I'm not going to go into because obviously I don't have time for that on here. But I do want to give you kind of a brief overview on how that's possible and how you can do that. Basically, you don't. Now, let's break it down into two parts, cash and credit. Well, first, cash. Now, is it true you don't need any cash? Well, you may need a little bit. You don't need a lot. You don't need thousands. You probably don't need hundreds. I think for my first deal I did was a couple $100 worth of ads to find the place and a little bit of my time, and that's a wholesale flip that I did. But when you're buying a house, right now there's tons of stuff that you can just take over if you know how to do it right. You can buy houses on a lease purchase and negotiate anything into it. So you don't need to necessarily have cash. You don't also don't need to have credit. If you, depending on how you're buying it, a lot of these that you're taking over, there's different ways that you can take them over. You can take over a property subject to the mortgage. Now that's a whole other ballpark and ballgame on learning real estate. It's one of the advanced techniques that not everybody should do. You've got to be pretty ethical and have a good, strong knowledge basis of doing it. But the subject to deals out there are plenty. There are a dime a dozen where you can just take over payments on a property. You just walk in and start making payments like the bank. You can have a closing just like a regular at a title company and have it all done. And you don't sign a mortgage. The mortgage stays in the seller's name, but you just make payments on it. Now you can do that, and that's legal. There are certain risks and things. The bank could call the loan due. Are they gonna? Probably not. I've got a buddy whose house is being foreclosed on right now, and it's been over a year that he hadn't been making payments. So if you're making payments, then they don't care if you're breathing or not, as long as they're getting paid right now, because of, the whole market right now. So you can take over. You can literally, if you can cover the mortgage and the payments and that kind of thing, you can walk in there and take over lots and lots of mortgages right now without any cash or credit. You can just step in and start making the payments because people can't sell their houses. People are having a lot of issues. So you can do that for yourself if you're buying yourself a house. You can also, working with owners are not going to check your credit, okay, for the most part, if you do it owner financing. A lot of homeowners are starting to do it with owner financing because of the fact that they can't sell it. People can't get loans from the banks. Are having trouble with it, don't know how to do it right, and property values have gone down where they owe more than it's worth. All sorts of different reasons for that. So homeowners are starting to have they're starting to have to figure out different ways to sell their home if they need to. Otherwise, they're going to give it back to the bank and it's going to go into foreclosure. And there's a whole other aspect of buying houses with that. If they're in foreclosure, that you can still do and deal with and do successfully with no money and no credit. It's just a matter of learning how to do it. Now, I was talking a little bit about cash. Depending on how you negotiate it, you can negotiate anything. I had a deal that I did last year, and I got it with very little down that I negotiated from the owner. But he agreed not to put a mortgage on the property. So basically, it was a promissory note I signed to buy a house from this guy for. It was assessed at $36,000. I got it for $18,000. Okay, and at closing, we had gotten to talking and became friends, developed a good rapport. long story short, he didn't want his son to end up with the property. His son had some drug issues. He didn't want it to go to him if he passed away. He just wanted it to go to somebody who would do something with it. So he agreed to sign the note and put no mortgage on there. So I was able to use that and get a line of credit from a bank and work with that. And then, right after all was said and done, he said, "Hey, if you pay me cash, I'll just take 10 grand for this thing." Okay, I worked out a deal that was pretty much no payments and nothing down, and then was able to get a $36,000 house for 10 grand. Now, those deals, I can promise you, are a dime a dozen. You can do that over and over and over again. It's just a matter of finding them, okay? They're not going to be exactly like that, but there's going to be differences. I've got one for $9,600 that was assessed at $36,000 as well. And that, I mean, they're there. They exist. Now, your numbers may vary depending on wherever you are, but your negotiation and your learning how to do this is what's going to be important. You don't need, especially to get started. What I primarily try and get people getting started to do is to start by wholesaling properties, flipping properties, getting something under contract and selling that. Well, what are your expenses going to be? Your expenses are going to be in finding the deals and contacting the sellers. Your expenses are going to be in marketing it to sell, because all you do is tie it up under contract. You give a little bit of earnest money, maybe $10, but I don't give any $500 to $1,000 earnest money like you see agents doing. I don't do that. I've got my business. I play with the cards that I've got and that I want to play. I play by my rules, and I suggest you do the same. Now, it is possible. I'm telling you, I was bankrupt, I was broke, and you start where you are. So if you're bankrupt, if you're broke, if your credit is horrible, that's okay. You just deal with the cards that you're dealt, and you learn from that and move forward. And I'm going to do another thing on bankruptcy and talk to you a little bit about that and about what you can do. But I'm telling you, your credit doesn't matter and your cash doesn't matter. You can get started in investing in this with nothing. The main thing you're going to need to do is learn. And, I've got tools. I don't care if you get my stuff or not. You can go to the library. There's tons of books and stuff out there. You can pick up stuff on eBay. Used courses that people have, stuffed on their bookshelves and haven't used. There's lots of stuff out there if you've got limited funds. Because obviously in a, quick little video, I can't teach you all the in-depths and intricacies of it. And that's one of the things that when I got started, that's one of the things I put money into, was to learning. And I'm just going to tell you, probably the best way, and a lot of investors are not going to tell you this, or a lot of the big gurus out there are not going to tell you this, that if you want to get started and you want to start learning, one of the best resources out there is going to be if you've got a local real estate investors group, okay? Because there are going to be people in that group that can help you get started, that know how to do some of this stuff. My wife didn't believe some of this stuff that we did. My mentor, Scott, I was showing her one of these houses. It was a $300,000 house. And I said, Scott, tell Tracy what you did to get this house. And his answer was, I made the seller pay me $16,000 to take it off his hands. Okay? Stuff like that happens. Now, no, it wasn't free and clear. Yeah, there were still payments that needed to be made, but you can get into deals with nothing. You just have to learn how to do it. You don't have to have credit. You don't have to have cash. I didn't have either when I got started, and you can do that too. I'm telling you, the main thing is the knowledge. Find people who are doing it, get to meet them, learn from them. I made my patrol car it was a university on wheels. I had my iPod in there, and it was plugged in, and that's all I listened to. I learned and learned. There's plenty of books out there that you can get. There's tons and tons and tons of information that you can get out there. So if I can do anything to help you, let me know.